Yeah.
Fighting for my son. In Letter to My Son, Don Tripp expresses his emotions regarding not being able to see his son and the feelings on his relationship with the mother of his child, Culture Pope. Also, he gives his thoughts on being a distant father and the struggles he faces as a black man. This rhetorical essay examines Don Tripp's Letter to My Son effective attitude in trying to see his son. I will be providing evidence from the song's lyrics to show the persuasion that Don Tripp is trying to get across to his target audience, struggling, low-income, non-residential black fathers. I will also be providing evidence to show that the situation at hand for him wanting to see his son is unlawful, and why Don Tripp feels that it does not support him any justice in the society trying to be an active father. I will also be pointing out Don Tripp's use of pathos throughout his song to connect with the struggling, low-income, and non-residential black fathers. A Letter to My Son, Don Tripp opens with the fast-paced sample expressing his pain about the separation from his son. The monologue starts off. Through these eyes, I can see loneliness headed my way. The light of love has gone out, and now your shadow's gone away. You took away the sound, the touch, the smell, my sight to see your smile. Lines 1 through 3. He opened up this monologue in a voice overtone of a child to show the shared emotions between him and his son. The lyrics suggest that the rapper is almost rendered helpless and numb as a man. He's pleading his case to his audience through the voice of a child to connect with the audience. He wants them to understand how it feels to be rejected when trying to be an active father in his son's life. In fact, the monologue features sensory imagery, which creates a pathos of pity and sadness. In the first verse, he comes off strong, aggressive, harsh, but when directed toward his son Jalen, he changes his mood to soft and sympathetic. Don Tripp's reason for doing this was to express his emotions without directly having to say how the situation makes him feel. In the opening verse alone, he has already shown his audience two emotions, anger and sadness, something his audiences can relate with. In the second verse, Don starts off by telling his audience how he tries to reason with the mother of his child, but she uses the son as a bargain against him. I try talking to the bitch, but she keeps using us as a bargaining chip. And I am not the one to be bargaining with. That just make me want to put my palms on the bitch. Lines 26 through 28. He lets his audience in on what he portrays her as in part of the relationship. His purpose for saying this is to retaliate against anything negative towards his name that society has thrown at him. He is also trying to point out ways of manipulation she is using against him. How he's missing his son's first steps, first words, and many more opportunities a trying father wouldn't want to miss. He is exposing the fact that she is using the idea of him trying as a trying father against him. Although Don introduces the second verse trying to use reasoning, he reintroduces the aggression towards the baby mother. He starts by defiling the mother's name, how he should have gone raw, or how he thought he loved her and that he never should have liked her in the first place, while calling her out of her name several times. Thinking that I loved her when I should have never liked her. But I do not regret my child, stupid bitch. I just want to see my child. Do what you may, but you will not make me bow. Lines 32 through 35. Don's reason for inserting this illustration is in the song was to enforce the strong stand of ethos. Lines 32 through 35 is to convince the audience of his credibility of his baby mother. He uses an aggressive tone to get across to his audience in a way that they can relate with. In the final verse of the song, he reopens with a sympathetic tone of voice. He begins by explaining what he's attempting to do as a father and a man to better himself. Matter of fact, I'm in school right now, in case this music don't work out and I gotta put the work down. My mama say this shit sure to work out, all the bullshit I'm going through to see my first child. Lines 41 through 44. His final reason for approaching his audience in a sympathetic form is to leave the audience on a positive idea of him. This is done to defeat, once again, all the bad that is thrown at his name. For example, the idea of him being an unfit father, which he introduced in verse 1, or that he stated that he sold drugs and had dirty dollars, which he also introduced in verse 1, or that Kelcher Pope was continuously bargaining with him because he no longer loved her as a girlfriend, as a wife, or a woman. His reasoning for the final verse was to, in a sense, shut up everything bad that had already been said about him. This also stood in the form of pathos. Don's idea in the final verse was to evoke both pity and sadness to connect with his audience to get his point across. Throughout the song, Don illustrates strong stands of pathos to relate to his audience on a level in which they can understand. Within my paper, I have pointed out key details involving Don Strip's letter to my son. I have explained through this paper, using supportive details, how he used pathos to get across to his audience, why he is not able to see his son and the relationship with both his son and the mother of his child, Kelcher Pope. Don's motive through Letter to My Son was to defeat the idea of him being an unfit father. I have provided these details to describe Don's point of view and to show how he has related to his audience, the black struggling and trying fathers today. He has done this effectively through the form of pathos.